everybody. Thank you all for joining us for our last video, second to last, one of the last videos for this resource, 3D Developing Digital Disciples. Again, my name is Alexander James. I have a special friend. Say your name, buddy.
Oh, my name is Kuya Paul.
Yes, Kuya Paul, man. What do you do, man?
Like you, actually, in person, I'm spoken word artist and poet. However, online, I'm known as Kuya Paul Games. I'm a digital content creator that can be found on twitch.tv/Kuya Paul Games.
Yeah, man, really, really good, man. Thank you for being here, man. Especially another gaming poet. You know, we got to represent, hold it down for each other.
Absolutely.
So real quick, all of you that are watching, we hope that you all have been learning, that you're being encouraged, you're being challenged by some of the material that we're putting out. But more than anything, we hope that you're excited about the possibilities of the kids that you can reach, of the youth that you can deepen engagement with using some of these materials. What we want to talk about for this video, though, is this idea of impact, right? This idea of like, what does it look like to know that you're hammering the nail? How do you know that this is making progress? So let me just throw it to Paul real quick. Like, I guess, man, in your world, what are some ways you measure success or impact?
Well, a lot, especially within the digital realm, it's very similar to what you might see in your church. So I do want to make that really clear. It's the idea of participation. So really think of what you're looking at in terms of your digital audience and your digital congregation is the fact that you want to see interaction. Interaction is a big thing in the digital media platform and content, especially as a creator myself. One of the biggest things that you look for is interaction, whether that's within the chat forum, so in your chat groups, whether online or when you're making VOD or video on-demand content. You want to see people talking about it, people discussing it, people reacting to it. So it's one of the places that you really want to see it. It's very similar to what you see in church when people are talking about your sermon, when people are discussing how they want to make a practical impact. It's the same thing that you're seeing online. As a digital content creator on Twitch, there's different ways that you can also measure it. I think sales talks about KPIs, or key performance indicators. In terms of that, online, you'll be able to see things like followers, subscribers. You'll be able to see basically your numbers, whether you're interacting on a community Discord channel, or if you're doing VOD content on YouTube, you'll be able to see that, of course, within your chat forums and the number of people that are chatting.
I love that, man. And I also think that this is also a space for some creativity, right? So for you in your youth ministry, in your church, in your context, maybe getting with your leadership team before you kick this thing off and going, hey, like, how are we going to measure growth for us, right? Because maybe you're a ministry with 40 kids, maybe you're a ministry with 5, maybe you're a ministry with 15, maybe you have a bunch of boys or a bunch of girls, or the ages are varied. So we don't want to throw out this blanket idea of measurement, right? We want to say, hey, we just want you to think about those benchmarks so you know what you're working towards, so you can be accurate in the decisions that you're making. Because the ultimate goal of this is of course, letting our students, our youth feel loved and seen and valued, giving them the opportunity to really wrestle with Christ in an engaging way by us sharing our lives, but being with them through this medium of gaming.
Absolutely.
But I think one word that we want to make sure that we don't shy away from is discipleship. That this life on life, do this with me, do this around me. Okay, now let me watch you do it, is really what we're saying. So let me kind of lean into this, that I don't want you all to, especially while you're conveying this to your leadership, make sure that they know that this is really about using the medium of gaming to grow and raise leaders. That while you're going into this, I want to say 2-3 months in, you want to already be looking at the kids in your group and saying, who can become a captain of this? Who can be the person to manage multiplayer? Who can be the person to do setup? Who's the one that's going to be doing my tournaments? Because the ultimate goal of this is for you to back out of it completely and let your youth run it themselves. This is about developing disciples, about teaching them to use this medium to expand the footprint of the gospel. Right. So, and I think one of the things that helps that happen is when you have those really key moments where folks are genuine and authentic with each other. I think Paul told me a story yesterday that I had to bring him on to share about somebody who just appreciated the humanity of their interaction over a game that he was streaming, and just really blessed the person. Can you share that story, Paul?
Yeah, so it was one of the times when I was streaming. I was actually streaming with my friends. We were doing both gameplay and discussion, and it was it was a very God moment because we actually weren't supposed to be on. And as we were discussing just things online, and we're building up an audience. And one of the things was basically like certain gifts that God gives us. We were talking about spiritual gifts because all of us happen to be Christian. One of the people watching, one of our viewers actually said like, well, and he had a really very, very human moment, basically saying it's like, well, like, is a gift also taking your mom away from you? And then we were all floored. At first, we didn't know necessarily how to react. It's just like, well, and we were real with them. It wasn't necessarily a moment where we were just we felt like we needed to preach to them, but it was also a very but it was also a very key moment because I don't even want to say ironically, but during that week, we had also actually lost a dear friend of ours in our church congregation. So we were real with him. We're just like, well, we're going through the same thing right now. We lost a dear friend, and we just had a very real human moment and a really spiritual moment as well too. Very, very much and very similar to moments that you probably have in church. As a youth minister, I've had several of those moments where, the longer you talk to a youth, the more inclined that they're going to break down on you. They're going to give you a real moment of fragility, a real moment of where's God in this moment.
And the way that you use that moment, the way you react to those moments are pivotal. I mean, all of this, the gaming, the strategies, all the things we're putting together is about how to react and move in those moments well. And I really loved how you shared that. You had mentioned that the guy thanked you all because you were so human.
Yeah. And it was, and that's the thing. It's basically just like being there and being. If I can even say as well with this, it's realizing that ministry is everywhere, and that particular part within the ministry, and actually talking to him and actually telling him these things, he appreciated that even as like Christians, and he had of course his preconceived notions of being Christian, of living in the faith. He really appreciated that we were real people that can be really approached and really talk about faith without having those barriers and those boundaries. As ministers, that's one of the things that we really see, that you get into people's realities, you get into people's real lives. And as a youth minister, we know that youth ministry, there's only certain parts of youth ministry that you can do on a Friday night. But real youth ministry is sometimes like, those times where you get calls from your youth or their parents about something happening within their lives. It's those times maybe after Sunday afternoons when you're at In-N-Out or something, and then that's when
And what I love about that, man, is this idea of like ministries everywhere. And what we're trying to expand and kind of help folks kind of double down on is that the venue of gaming can be a place where real ministry happens. And speaking like more structurally, is that this idea of like, you have to create spaces in this ministry that we're using for your kids to feel really involved and really invested. So like maybe a suggestion box for the next game you all play, or things that they can kind of add to give it their own personal flavor. And I would also say like building into the culture, the kids that were really, really good at Smash Brothers are really, really good at that video game. Maybe they help train the kids that are not so good. So you create this culture of training and developing and pouring into and building up. And what that does simultaneously is that it acknowledges the skills of the kids that have worked hard, but it also encourages the skill growth of the kids who aren't as under. So I would even argue that same mindset could be transferred to Bible scripture memorization, to doing little quizzes and puzzles that you can take out of the gaming space. And all those things really pour into this idea of how you will lean into and measure the impact of your ministry. Yeah, man, that's really good. Thank you so much, Paul. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. And I mean, God bless this and this ministry. And I do hope that it does continue this particular part in the digital landscape. And I even like to say, like, we talk a lot about like nerd culture. It really is popular culture right now that video games is actually possessing this. There are conversations to be had. And instead of just instead of the ridicule that it used to get years and decades ago, now it's creating this platform of conversation, this platform of community building where people can talk. And that's really what ministry is about. People have conversations that they have questions about. And as ministers, this is a perfect time for us to say, well, this is what the Bible says. This is what the word says. And this is what God's promises are within these conversations that we can start having.
Yeah, man. Absolutely, man. Appreciate it. Peace.
Peace.